Sup flappers. It's good to get back to our roots every once in a while. To remember why they call me the apex of Arctic waters. They don't call me that, but it sounds dope. Anyways, welcome to another video brought to you by Erotic Walrus. Today we have our favorite assistant, the one, the only, Sucrose. She definitely has her fan base, so I will not be labeling her as underrated, but at the same time I feel many people are not giving her the chance she deserves, and we will go over why in this video. If this is the first time you're watching one of my guides, welcome. I'm sure you know, but it takes quite a while to farm up the materials for these characters and banging them out with decent artifacts and weapons, so you get the gist. If this video ends up being helpful, please consider like and subscribing. And so, since for all of my videos, you guys always skip the skill and constellation section, I have now tuned my guides to focus more on the building aspect, and with that, let's start with her weapons first. So for weapons, I know there can be confusion between energy recharge or elemental mastery weapons. The thing is, the answer to that depends on at what stage of the game you are at. With Sucrose, you actually can get away with using just 3 or 4 star weapons, so it's not incredibly difficult to switch weapons. Also, you do not need to take her weapons all the way to level 90. The reason being is that she is mostly being used as a support, and you can calibrate her kit to maximize efficiency without squeezing out the extra stats from leveling. You also do not need the high base stats of a 5-star weapon to get good values for her. And the reason for that is Sucrose actually should focus more on elemental mastery or energy recharge. So for early game 3-star weapons, Otherworldly Stories is your best bet. The reason being, it's the only 3-star catalyst which offers energy recharge, so if you are under AR 30, this likely will be your best bet if you don't have any of the other weapons I'm about to mention. So for the 4-star options, you start to have more options, but we will focus on support Sucrose. So I would say 4-star weapons in order of how you should be upgrading is Favonius Codex into Mappa Mare into Sacrificial Fragments. The reason being, early on, you may struggle to make up for the missing energy regeneration in artifacts. Therefore, having it in your weapon will help you hit that sweet spot of around 150% regen. Onwards, when you make the change to elemental mastery weapons, you can make the choice of Mappa Mare or the Sacrificial Fragments. Which one you choose should be made between whether your Sucrose is C0 or C1. I would say starting at C1 using the Sacrificial Fragments will give immense value, as you could essentially be carrying 3 charges of your E, and if you toggle it right, you have huge uptime on it, allowing you to generate much more particles, essentially more burst uptime overall as well. So as for 5-star weapons, I don't suggest you build it for Sucrose, as with her you really don't need to have either crit rate or attack as the weapon substat, although if you for some reason want to build Sucrose as a main DPS, you could use them, but we won't go into that in this video. So onwards to artifacts and what stats to look for. This is where it can get a little tricky, as for Anemo characters, most of them have slight different builds from your average character, so we'll go over that here. Again, 2 scenarios, one if you are in early game, and the second choice will be for late game. So if you're just starting out and don't have access to the dungeon that allows you to farm the Viridescent set, the 2-piece Instructor and 2-piece Gambler can be a good choice. Or you can go with the 4-piece Instructor, which is great if you run reaction teams. However, as you progress into the game, you would want to pick up the Viridescent 4-piece set. For the main stat, we have some options. There are people who advocate for attack on sands, Anemo damage cup, and attack on headpiece. This is definitely a viable option to run Sucrose. However, you will be missing out on her second talent, Mollis Favonius, which gives 20% of Sucrose elemental mastery to all party members when either her skill or burst hits enemies. This passive actually takes into account your artifact elemental mastery as well, so if you are running a powerful reaction team such as a vaporize or melt team, you ideally want to run elemental mastery on sands, Anemo damage cup, and attack headpiece. The reason you may be wondering still is usually the headpiece is reserved for crit rate and crit damage, so why not for Sucrose? Well, you see, for Anemo swirl characters, they cannot crit with swirl damage. While their skill damage can crit, swirl and all swirl reactions cannot, which ultimately means that you should focus more on the raw damage with attack rather than to dump it into crit rate or crit damage, if that makes sense. Now finally, let's move into team builds. This could be a little difficult for people as well, since Sucrose is not a character that can be slotted into any team and have maximum efficiency. It's not as simple as just plug and play. So as I mentioned earlier, her kit essentially buffs your team's elemental reactions. So if you're running a physical team with super conduct, you will get slightly less value out of her than if you were to be running a melt or vaporize team, which heavily relies on elemental reactions. Since the focus of your team is not on dealing damage through reactions, physical teams usually won't find much success with her. That being said, let's look at some options that she would be good for, starting with the double pyro vaporize team with XIANGLING main DPS, XINGQIU support DPS, BENNETT healer, and Sucrose elemental support. This team works around XIANGLING's consistent normal attack damage mixed with XINGQIU's hydro synergy to BENNETT and XIANGLING's pyro reactions. With Sucrose buffing the elemental mastery of the team, you can get good numbers out of it. You can switch out XIANGLING for characters such as Diluc or Klee if you have them. For the second team, we have a melt team consisting of Kaeya main DPS, XIANGLING support DPS, and Barbara healer with Sucrose elemental support. Many people may look at Kaeya and be like, ew, free character, but the reality is he is very potent as a cryo main DPS, and he has self-sustainability with his first talent, which takes strain away from the healer. Especially with the new cryo artifact set, Kaeya is shaping up to be a great choice for melt teams. Barbara and Kaeya also has consistent freeze potential, which is very handy. Now at the end, I have a team that is not centered around vaporize and melt, but can still be effective. For this team, we have FISCHL main DPS, XIANGLING support DPS, and DIONA support with Sucrose elemental support. The idea is for Sucrose to activate mass area superconduct through swirl reactions to give FISCHL a huge buff. While also you can choose the overload reaction as well if you just want to go for raw damage. Even though I said earlier that physical teams may not be ideal for Sucrose, there are play arounds such as this team to still make great use of her kit. Now, thanks for watching to the end. I hope this has helped. Like and subscribe to support the channel and join my Discord if you have more questions. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to make content for you guys in the year of 2020, and I hope to see you all around my channel more often in 2021. So until then, stay safe and peace.